Hi everyone. So, I'm back. And no, I'm still here at the same motel, but things have changed. There has been a lot of revelation, a lot of things happening at work, things that I didn't realize were happening. Well, I did realize. It's how can I put this? It's been a situation where um, I knew that this was happening when I first started because I'd seen it before. And my husband and the boss had made a plan to catch this person doing these deeds because they found out, the boss found out about what was happening. So God brought it to me full circle. And January and February have been full of full circle moments. God has been bringing me back to the past and then back to the present and then back to the past and back to the present from the time that I started working at the restaurant, okay? So I'm going to be going back, forward, back and forth, so keep up, okay? So when I first started, God reminded me of money, change that I've been finding on the corner coin slot that we don't use. Like there's registers that have the same number, the exact number of slots for the quarters, nickels, dimes, and pennies. But there's some drawers that have an extra slot, and that's meant to hold things like dollar coins, 50-cent coins, the coins that aren't your typical tender. Okay, so and excuse me, I am sick, and God brought me back to when was the last time you got sick? And I was like, it was back in January. It was I'm bringing things back. I'm like, oh no. Because when God starts to bring things back, that means there's moving going forward. And sorry guys about my hair. I just woke up. Like I was expecting to go to a baseball game today and go have some fun. And then I woke up and it was 9 o'clock and I was like, I'm not going. And God's like, nope, you're not. And I was like, how come? Because your husband doesn't want you to go by yourself to a baseball game without him. And I was like, but I asked him to go with me. And he goes, I've got things he's got to do. So God said, and you have things you've got to do. And I was like, okay. So without further ado, so the first thing he reminded me of was me getting sick. And then I went back to last year and I remembered I got sick. And he goes, when was the last time you got sick before that? And I was like, the Christmas after I started. I said, so last year was 22, 24. The year before that was 23. So last year I got sick in January. The year before that I got sick in January. For the 22nd, for the 23rd, no, 22nd, which is when I came here back to Arizona, I got sick in December. So I was like, wait, how did I get sick in December? But then I got, and he goes, because you got sick at the beginning of December, then you got better, then you came here, and you got sick in end of January, beginning of February. And I was like, that sucks. And so, and before that, I hadn't been sick the whole time we were going through COVID. So this is gonna make sense, trust me. So God, and if you don't notice, I have a new way of doing things. So God has released me from using the wired headphones, and now I'm using wireless headphones. These are old school headphones that I bought when I first moved down on my own, because the ones that I had were a gift from my ex-husband, so he got rid of those. And then I bought some new ones, and those broke, and they were free. So God's like, so don't cry, because they were free. I gave those to you. So I do need. Oh, okay. God says it's time. It's time to sow your seeds. Okay. Know the time you're in. Understand the season that you're in. You cannot grow. You cannot receive unless you plant your seeds on good ground. Why am I saying this? Because God has been teaching me that there are different methods He uses to plant seeds. Some of them are spoken. Some of them are thoughts. Some of them are hearts. Some of them are faith. Some of them are financial seeds. Okay? How He blesses you isn't how you think He is going to bless you. If He asks you today, sow a seed, a financial seed into my daughter, into my son, you're not necessarily going to receive back that seed, that harvest, in financial form. He needs you to have faith to walk the way He's asking you to walk and allow Him to decide how He's going to bless you. Maybe He sees there's a time of pain that you're about to go through, and He needs you to financially sow into someone so that He can put the pieces together so that the people that are going to help you without asking for any money is going to be in the moment that you need them. I did not know I was going to say all that. You have to have faith. You have to let Him lead you in the way that He leads you, and don't have fear. Don't have doubt. Don't go, oh no, I've seen some of this woman's videos. I've seen some of this man's videos. I don't agree with his messages. I don't agree with her messages. It's not up to you. It's not for you to understand. It is for God. Because God can see our hearts. God knows what He puts in our minds. God knows what He has us doing. God knows the way He has us being. And when I first started making these videos, I said, my faith is a radical faith. Well, guess what? He's been telling me, honey, you ain't just got radical faith, you got radical love. And I was like, what? And he confirmed it to me. He has been bringing so many different prophets, and He's been not having me listen to the message. He's been having me look at the posture. And I was like, okay. Because this child is lost. They're still doing things of the world, but look at their posture. Look at the way that they're posturing themselves every time they say my name. Are they trying to take the glory from me? Are they trying to say that they have a hand in it? Are they trying to say that because of their ability, the people watching are the ones receiving the word? And I'm like, oh. He is increasing my discernment. He is increasing my awareness. He is increasing my wisdom, because there is going to come a time when we won't have that ability to hear His voice, because the noise of the world, the noise that Lucifer is putting out, is going to be so loud that it is going to be our discernment. It is going to be our eyes. It is going to be our mouth. It is going to be our ears. It is going to be everything that God has been putting in us, pushing down into our hearts, pushing down into our souls, that is going to allow us to decipher the things that we are seeing, the things that we are hearing, the things that we are chewing on. I've been doing a lot of chewing lately. The words that people have been speaking at work. Father, why does this word stick in my mouth? And he goes, and what does it taste like? I'm like, I'm not sure. It's kind of chewy. And he goes, it's flavorless, right? And I said, yeah, it is. And he goes, spit it out. Not physically, but spit it out. Okay, don't take it with you, because it's not for you. It's not meant to be taken in by you, to regurgitate it, to chew it, to break it down and return it into something that is worthwhile. There is a young man, his name is Carver, and every time he is around me, and it started when he first started, and God was like, I don't want you to respond to this young man. I'm like, okay. He would tell me, I want you to get fired. You need to get fired. You need to leave. You need to go. You need to move. You need to... And I knew it was the spirit behind him. And so after the third time, I said, God, he keeps saying this to me. Tell him he's hurt your feelings. I said, okay, remember, our obedience is because God is trying to get to that person's heart. And the way that God does it is by that person coming against us. Because now God has a reason to get involved. Now God has a reason to say, nah, don't touch my anointed, because you're going to see my face. And you ain't going to like my judgment. I don't judge him. But I told him, I said, Carver, every time you tell me that I need to get fired, that I need to leave, you hurt my feelings. You need to stop saying that. And he did. He stopped saying that. But now I've noticed a friendship between Cody and Carver. When God said, look at that. You didn't expect that, did you? I said, no. And he goes, 2 peas in a pod. I said, Carver's a thief. He wants money. He's greedy. He'll do whatever he has to get it. So will Cody. They recognize each other. The spirits over each other. So I've noticed that every time this young man is in the store, I end up tripping, I end up slipping, I end up falling. I almost drop food. Yesterday was no exception. In the morning, when I first got to work, it was like everything was normal, I went about my business and I was starting to do the dressings for the side, for salads and things that get prepped throughout the day. And God has had me playing basketball with these jugs. And so, because my husband loves basketball, and I used to play basketball, but I'm not very good at it. So God is allowing me to build up my skills in the sport that I'm not very good at. Because I decided a very long time ago when I was in grade school that basketball was not for me. But my husband loves basketball. So, anyway. So I had already done 2 jugs and I had thrown them into the trash can. No problem. Came around the corner with the third one. When I went to do the layup, my foot stepped into oil, grease, that someone had mopped up, but not very well, and left it like that. And my foot just went, boss, and I fell. I hurt my back, I hurt my butt, I hurt my legs, I hurt my thighs, but I didn't break anything. And I just, God, you've got me every other time. What happened? And he goes, you'll understand later. He allows things to happen to us so that we start to put things in order. And God is telling me, you need to start praying whenever this young man just turned in his 2 weeks. But before he leaves, he's going to try to get me out. But let's see. Okay, so my glasses are a little dirty. Excuse me. So I'm going through my day. Everything's going great. Everything's fine. And then I noticed that the boss is now in the side area where normally it's another worker. And he has progressively tried to get into my space. And I text my husband and I tell him, I said, I don't like him around me. His creepiness makes my skin crawl. And I can tell you, every time my skin has crawled like this, it is because it's a pedophile. And and this is where God brought me back. And he goes, when was the last time you felt like this? Drugger. And he goes, what was Drugger? A pedophile. How did you find out that he was a pedophile? He was arrested along with 10 other men, and I saw his picture on the news because they had been caught with a sex trafficking ring of videos of children. It made me sick. The time before that, a man tried to rape me when I was 13 years old. A time before that, my dad made a comment about my uncle being inappropriate around me and told my mom, or told the woman I was raising me, I don't want your brother touching her. I don't want him hugging her. I don't want him around her. You need to keep him away or I will. And she goes, you need to stop. My brother's not like that, blah, blah, blah. Fast forward 3 years, my cousin told my mom, the woman who's raising me, that that uncle molested her. The time before that, God had sent me, I wanted to go to my grandma's house. But God, when we got to the crossroads, said, no, go to Safeway. I get to Safeway. The woman who raised me, my dad, put out a full-on manhunt for me and my brother. I think it was more for my brother than for me, but she made it because I was involved, you know. So the manager from the Safeway caught us, put us in his office. The office had a deadbolt, and there was only, you could only get in with a key, and you could only get out with a key. Apparently, unbeknownst to me, the police officers had come in to the store, showed him pictures of us. He had posted pictures of us around his store. He waited until around 8 o'clock at night and asked if I knew how to get home. And I said yes. And he said, okay. Got us into his car, and he was driving us home. When we got there, I saw all the police officers, and I knew I was in trouble. I'm like, oh no, I'm going to jail. This man was arrested. It was later found out that he was a pedophile, that he was in a sex trafficking ring of children. The sergeant told the woman who was raising me that his plan was to get me across the border with my brother and sell us to his connections. Before that, there was a man dressing up like the character It in a clown suit, and he was stealing children. Me and some friends from the mobile home park where we lived were playing in the churchyard. One of the little girls was being grabbed by this clown, and I went up to it and I kicked him, and I kept kicking him, and I punched him, and I kept punching him until he let go. But he couldn't grab me. He couldn't get a hold of me. And so God said, run. And I did. And I ran. I don't know how. This church door was open. But it was open, and I went into the church, and I slid, because where the preacher preaches, because I used to go to that church, where the preacher preaches, there was an underneath stage where they had the musicians sit. Now, that church hadn't had musicians in a very long time. Instead, they now had a radio, they had a piano, so they would play the music that they needed to play for us to sing the hymns during church. And so I knew there was nothing there, so I slid down under there, and I could see this man walking. He came in the back door, and then he was gone. God has been preparing me for this. I find the pedophiles, and I know who they are because they make me feel creepy. I'm like, God, why are they so creepy? Why do they make me cringe? Like, I don't understand. And then he brings it back. Who makes you cringe? Who makes you feel creepy? Pedophiles do. There you go. So, I've told my husband that he creeps me out. I've told my husband that he's a pedophile, that he's hurt boys. My husband looks around at the kitchen. All we work with is boys, young boys, under the age of 7, between 16 and 17, 18, 19. That's his preferred age group. You get into 30s and 25s, he's not interested. He needs adults because he needs the people that are going to do the job. These 16, 17, 18, 19, 20-year-olds, they're passerbys. But he needs them for the videos he's making. He's looking for innocence. But he's not just looking for innocence. He's looking for the boys who have daddy issues. That's why he focuses on me. Because he can see that I have daddy issues. But I don't act like I have daddy issues. Why? Because my father healed me from all that pain, from feeling abandoned, from feeling unloved, unwanted. And so yesterday, when I fell, God had already alerted me. Keep an eye on Wired. And so as I was working in the morning, and I was getting, the boss was spread out. Like he was everywhere. And I was just like, and my husband was watching, pretending that he wasn't watching. But I know he's watching because I see him. I see how his eyes work. I see how he uses the peripheral of his eyes so that it doesn't look like he's looking at you. But he is. I know when he's being serious, and I know when he's working. And I know when it is time to leave him alone. And so I knew that he was working. I'm watching, paying attention to what this man's behavior was like around me. Because this man pretends to be a friend to him. Pretends that, oh no, she's a flirt. She's promiscuous. She's got guys lining up for her. This is what he's telling her, to stay away from me. But he sees my character. He's like, she's not like that. I see her. I see her attitude. I see her behavior. She shows me who she really is. You don't know her at all. So the boss man was standing there cutting his onions and tomatoes, and God said, sing. Don't turn off your light because he's standing here. Shine it brighter. So I did. I started singing a lot louder than I normally do. And I'm working on doing my salads, but my husband is watching me. Watching that he's in my way. He's disturbing my peace. And he's just looking at it. You don't like doing sides. He's very vocal about the things he doesn't like to do. And in the morning, the other crew chief, the one that works with us in the morning on Fridays, was about to go into the sides to work the sides. And he's like, do you want me to do the sides? And he goes, no, I'm taking care of them today. And he was like, oh, I want you to go make pizzas. Oh, okay. And so I'm doing my salads, getting my things done. And God, every phone that rang, it was a manager call. Manager line 1, manager line 1. So he kept having to leave my space. God's not going to let you mess with his children. And he's got judgment coming. He does. So he asked my husband to help him find the thief. He knew who the thief was. God brought me back. He has been bringing Mariah's name up a lot. And I was like, Mariah's name? Why Mariah? And then God all of a sudden dropped the nugget. And he goes, did you know Mariah was stealing? I'm like, yes. Did you know that Will thought it was either you or Mariah stealing? Yes. Why did she end up in the kitchen? Will caught her stealing and told her, I don't want you up front at all. If I see you up front, I'm going to fire you. But he used it as evidence. He asked her to give up the names of the people who were stealing with her. And she sang like a canary. There have been 3 times that I have had animals in the store. The first time was a bat, and it was when the boss was working, Will, and it flew up, and Will's like, it's a bird, just go shoo it out. I grabbed the broom and I was about to hit it, and then I looked up and I was like, that's not a bird, that's a bat. So I went up to Bill and I said, it's not a bat, or it's not a bird, it's a bat. He goes, what? I said, it's a bat. B-A-T, you know? And he goes, don't move it. I said, I know. I said, if it was anyone else, they would have freaking hit the bat. And God forbid the bat shit everywhere, because then we have to close off the restaurant and have hazmat people come in and clean it, because the bat poop is diseased. They have disease in their secretions. So anything that bat could have pooped on would have had to have been sanitized, like at a level that is crazy. So he called his boss and said, hey, what do I do? And he's like, you got to catch the bat and you got to get it out of there. And don't let that bat go anywhere or do anything, because the cleaning bill for that is going to be astronomical. And so he's like, fine, and gave me instruction. Diana, don't let that bat out of your sight. Kim was with me that day. God had Kim give me a ride home one day. This was before the bat. Or no, after the bat. And he goes, look at it. Because she got out to get gas. And he said, look at her door. In her door was a picture of a bat. And I was like, okay. I said, what is a bat? What are the behaviors of a bat? They hide in the dark. They work for the darkness. I know that. They also are part of witchcraft. So he put that together. And then he put together, but whose shift was that on? But that wasn't until later. Okay. So the last 2 animals that I've had to deal with, 2 of them were doves. The first one was a dove. And it was on Cody's day. And I ushered out the dove. I was like, okay. The second time was also with Cody. And it was 2 doves. And 1 dove was hurt. And I was like, what does that mean, Father? And he said, who did you think were the thieves? Jade, Cassie, Carla. He goes, no. Jade wasn't a thief. Jade was a patsy. Until you started. And then you became the patsy. Because they wanted to indoctrinize Jade. Because Jade was an innocent. She was a child. She was only 17. She still lived at home with her parents. She believes in God. But they were getting her involved with tarot cards, with divinity, with witchcraft, manifesting using things that aren't of God. And she is a child of God. So they were leading her down the wrong path. And I am sweating so bad, guys. I'm sorry. So as I'm thinking about these three birds, he's like, which one of them got hurt? Well, she didn't just get hurt, Father. He goes, I know. It's like, oh my God. Mariah's grace ran out. So Lucifer was allowed to collect. You see, when you work for the dark side and you don't step back into the light and you don't return to God and ask for forgiveness, the blood of the Lamb can't cover you and protect you and defend you. Even if you aren't walking completely right, if you do not repent, God will walk you out of that life slowly so that it doesn't feel punitive. It feels punitive in the moment, and it feels like, because Lucifer attacks us and he's trying to keep us in that moment, in that force of life that he has created in our minds. But because, and I was talking to Mariah, I was talking to her about God and how God is wonderful and he protects us. And she goes, I know. And I said, then why are you doing the things you're doing, Mariah? And she said, because I'm scared. And I said, I was scared too once. She goes, but you look so strong. And I said, yeah, because he made me strong. I would have candid conversations with her about my testimony, about my life, about the things I had been through. And she was starting to step away. She was starting to step back into the light. But she met a new girl. And that girl was more wicked than the one she had before. Because Lucifer will bring you back into